Welcome to Tales from the Jade Scroll.
Today, we're telling one of the most famous stories in all of Chinese mythology, how the greatest archer who ever lived saved the world from 10 blazing suns.
Imagine waking up one morning, stepping outside, and seeing not one sun in the sky,
but 10.
At first, everyone thought it was beautiful. 10 brilliant suns lit the heavens with dazzling golden light, brighter than anyone had ever seen.
That doesn't sound like a problem.
It wasn't, for the first few moments. But as the suns climbed higher, the air grew hotter, then hotter still. Before long, people shaded their eyes, unable to look at the sky.
Something was very wrong.
The rivers began shrinking beneath the relentless heat. Crops wilted in the fields. Forests became so dry that even the smallest spark could start a fire.
One sun keeps us alive. 10 suns would be unbearable.
That's exactly what the people discovered. According to the ancient legend, the 10 suns were not ordinary stars. They were brothers, the sons of the mighty sun goddess. Each day, only one was supposed to travel across the sky while the others rested.
So what happened?
One morning, the brothers decided they didn't want to take turns anymore.
They all went together?
Every single one. At first, they laughed as they raced across the heavens side by side. They had never flown together before, and they were enjoying the adventure.
They didn't realize what they were doing to the world below.
They didn't. While they played in the sky, lakes dried into cracked earth. Animals searched desperately for water. People looked upward, hoping the blazing heat would somehow come to an end.
If nothing changed, the world wouldn't survive.
Far above the earth, the gods were watching, and they knew there was only one person who might be able to save everyone.
Who was he?
His name was Hou Yi, the greatest archer the world had ever known. At first, the 10 brothers laughed as they raced across the heavens. They had never shared the sky before, and they thought they had discovered the greatest adventure imaginable.
But the adventure didn't last very long.
No. Before the day was over, they noticed something strange. Thick clouds had vanished. Rivers no longer sparkled beneath them. Smoke rose from forests that had always been green.
Did they realize they had caused it?
Not at first. They were still too young to understand that every extra sun made the world below hotter and drier.
So while they were enjoying themselves?
The people below were searching for shade. Animals wandered in search of water, and the land grew hotter with every passing hour.
Couldn't the sun goddess simply call her sons home?
According to some tellings of the legend, she tried. But by then, the brothers were having too much fun to listen.
They ignored their own mother?
They did. For the first time in their lives, excitement had overcome responsibility. News of the blazing sky spread across the land. Village leaders searched for answers. Wise elders remembered ancient prophecies. Even the gods watched from above, unsure how to stop 10 suns without leaving the world in darkness.
So the real question wasn't how to stop them.
It was how to save the world while keeping one sun in the sky.
That sounds almost impossible.
Almost. Among the gods, one name kept returning to the conversation.
Not because he was the strongest,
but because he was the wisest archer they had ever known.
Hou Yi?
Before he became a legend, he was simply a man who believed that great power should only be used when there was no other choice.
Before Hou Yi became a legend, he was just an ordinary person?
According to the legend, he lived a simple life. People knew him as an extraordinary archer, but they also knew him as someone they could always depend on.
Was he always practicing?
Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight reached the hills, Hou Yi would carry his bow into the fields. He practiced for hours, not because he wanted fame, but because he believed every skill should be sharpened through patience. I imagine people came to watch. They certainly did. Children often gathered nearby, waiting to see one of his incredible shots. They would cheer as arrow after arrow flew straight to its mark.
I'd probably be asking him to do trick shots all day.
He wouldn't have been the only one. But Hou Yi always reminded them that archery wasn't about showing off.
Then what was it about?
A bow is a tool, he would say. Its purpose is to protect, never to impress.
I like that.
After finishing his practice, Hou Yi walked back toward his village. Along the way, he noticed an elderly farmer struggling to carry 2 heavy buckets of water from one of the few wells that hadn't yet dried up.
Did he stop?
Without hesitation, Hou Yi picked up the buckets and carried them the rest of the way, chatting with the farmer as though it were the most ordinary thing in the world.
That's probably why people respected him so much.
It wasn't only his skill that made him remarkable. He was the kind of person he chose to be. As the sun began to set, Hou Yi looked toward the horizon. Even from where he stood, he could feel the unbearable heat pouring down from the 10 blazing suns. He knew the world was in trouble. He did, but he had no idea that he was about to become part of the solution. Suddenly, the wind stopped. The trees stood perfectly still. Even the birds fell silent. Something was coming. A brilliant light appeared before Hou Yi, and from it stepped a messenger from the heavenly court. I don't think this was an ordinary visitor. The messenger bowed and spoke just 4 words. What were they? Heaven needs your help.
So before Hou Yi became a legend, heaven came looking for him. The heavenly messenger led Hou Yi high above the mountains, beyond the drifting clouds, until they reached the magnificent palace of the gods. What was it like? Its golden rooftops shimmered like sunlight, great pillars stretched toward the sky, and countless heavenly officials gathered inside, all waiting for Hou Yi to arrive. They must have been relieved to see him. They were hopeful, but they were also worried. Every hour that passed, the 10 suns made the world below hotter. So what did the gods ask him to do? The ruler of the heavenly court welcomed Hou Yi and explained everything that had happened. The 10 sun brothers had refused to take turns, and no one had been able to convince them to return home. What was Hou Yi's first question? Have you spoken with them? That wasn't the answer I expected. Hou Yi believed that a bow should never be the first solution. What did the gods say? They explained that the sun goddess had called for her sons. Other heavenly messengers had tried to persuade them as well, but the brothers were having too much fun to listen, so talking hadn't worked. No. Hou Yi stood quietly for a moment. He knew the world needed help, but he also understood something else. What was that? The world still needed a sun. Without one, crops would never grow, the days would never warm, and life itself would struggle to survive. So stopping all 10 wasn't enough. One had to remain. Exactly. Hou Yi accepted the mission, but he made one promise. What was it? I will do everything I can to solve this without unnecessary harm. Even after everything the suns had done? Even then, Hou Yi believed true strength meant knowing when not to use it. I think that's why the gods chose him. They hadn't chosen the greatest archer simply because he never missed. They chose him because they trusted his judgment. Carrying his bow across his shoulder, Hou Yi left the heavenly palace and began his journey toward the 10 blazing suns, hoping that words would succeed where everything else had failed. Hou Yi didn't go looking for a fight. No. He hoped this journey would end with a conversation, not a battle. Guided by the heavens, Hou Yi climbed higher than any mountain until he reached the path where the 10 sun brothers raced across the sky. Did they notice him? They certainly did. The brothers slowed their race and circled above him, surprised that a human had reached the heavens. I imagine they had a lot of questions. They did. Who are you? One of the brothers called. What did Hou Yi say? My name is Hou Yi, he replied. I've come because the world below is suffering.
Did they believe him?
They looked down toward the earth for the first time that day. Smoke drifted from distant forests. Rivers had become narrow ribbons. The land no longer looked the way they remembered. So they finally saw what had happened. The youngest brother's smile faded. What did he say? We didn't mean to hurt anyone. He actually felt sorry. He did. But before anyone else could speak, the oldest brother laughed. Uh-oh. The world has always depended on our light, he said. How could more sunlight possibly be a bad thing? He still didn't understand. Hou Yi tried once more. The world needs warmth, he explained, but it also needs balance. One sun gives life. 10 suns together bring destruction. Did any of the others listen? A few exchanged uncertain glances, but the oldest brother simply challenged the others to race again. They were choosing fun over responsibility. Exactly. One by one, the brothers followed him across the blazing sky. Except... The youngest hesitated for just a moment, then reluctantly chased after his brothers. I don't think Hou Yi wanted that to happen. No, he had hoped words would be enough. As the 10 blazing suns disappeared into the distance, Hou Yi slowly reached for the bow resting across his shoulder.
Hou Yi had given the 10 brothers every chance to stop.
He had. He had crossed the heavens to speak with them. He had shown them the suffering below. He had asked them to return home.
But they still wouldn't listen.
The oldest brother laughed and led the others across the sky once again. Their golden light poured over the land, and the heat continued to rise.
Except, not all of them seem so certain anymore.
No. The youngest brother looked down at the world below. He saw forests blackened by fire, dry riverbeds winding through the valleys, and families searching for water.
He finally understood.
He did. Brother, he called, maybe we should go home.
What did the oldest brother say?
Don't be afraid, he answered. Nothing will happen. Come on.
He still believed Hou Yi wouldn't act.
Exactly. The youngest brother looked toward Hou Yi one last time. He knew what was coming. Hou Yi met his eyes but said nothing. He had already spoken every word he could.
There was nothing left to say.
Slowly, Hou Yi lifted his bow.
The sky became silent.
The laughter stopped. The racing stopped. Even the wind seemed to pause.
Did anyone move?
Only the oldest brother. He turned away and flew forward once more, refusing to believe anyone would dare stop him. That was the moment everything changed. Hou Yi drew an arrow from his quiver. The bowstring tightened. One final chance. Please, Hou Yi called, don't make me release this arrow. Did the oldest brother answer? Without looking back, he raced farther across the sky. He had made his choice. And now, Hou Yi had to make his. He took one slow breath.
Then,
His fingers opened.
The first arrow flew.
Welcome back to Tales from the Jade Scroll.
When we left our story, Hou Yi had just released his first arrow.
It flew across the heavens faster than anyone could follow. For a brief moment, everything was silent. Then, the arrow struck the oldest son brother with perfect aim. It actually happened. The oldest brother looked down in disbelief. His golden light began to fade as he slowly disappeared beyond the distant mountains. The other brothers stopped racing. They had never imagined Hou Yi would truly release the arrow. What did the youngest brother do? He lowered his head. He warned us, he whispered. He knew this didn't have to happen. The remaining brothers gathered together, no longer laughing. For the first time, they looked frightened.
So was it over?
Hou Yi hoped it was. Return home, he called. One son is enough. The world can still be saved. Did they finally listen? Several of the younger brothers wanted to. They looked toward the distant home of the sun goddess, unsure what to do. But someone stopped them. The second oldest brother stepped forward. He wasn't ready to give up. He's only one man, he declared. There are still 9 of us. That wasn't a very good plan. No. The younger brothers hesitated, but one by one they followed him. They had always followed their older brothers, and today was no different. Hou Yi gave them another chance. Please, he called, don't make another mistake. Did anyone turn back? The youngest almost did. Almost. But as the others flew on, he couldn't bear to leave his brothers behind. Sometimes doing what's easy is harder than doing what's right. Exactly. Seeing that the danger had not passed, Hou Yi slowly reached for another arrow. He was hoping he wouldn't have to use it. But the blazing sky told him otherwise.
The first arrow had changed everything.
It had. The laughter was gone. The remaining sun brothers scattered across the heavens, each hoping to escape the fate of their eldest brother.
Did Hou Yi chase them?
He didn't rush. He carefully watched the sky, waiting for the right moment. Every arrow mattered because one son still had to remain.
So he couldn't simply fire at everyone.
Exactly. The second oldest brother called for the others to stay together.
Did they listen?
At first they did, but after another arrow streaked through the sky, another brilliant light disappeared.
That must have terrified them.
It did. Several younger brothers turned and raced back toward their home, unwilling to risk the same fate.
They finally understood Hou Yi wasn't their enemy.
He never had been. He wanted only one thing, to restore balance to the world.
But not everyone agreed.
No, the second oldest brother still refused to leave.
What about the youngest?
He flew beside his brother. Please, he said, we've already lost enough. Let's go home.
Did his brother listen?
The second oldest looked across the sky, now emptier than it had ever been. For just a moment, he almost turned back.
Almost.
Then he shook his head. A son should never run away, he declared.
Pride can be a difficult thing to let go.
It can. Hou Yi slowly raised another arrow.
He still wasn't aiming at the youngest.
Never. The world needed one sun to bring light and warmth.
The second oldest knew that, didn't he?
He did. Yet instead of returning home, he flew straight toward Hou Yi, determined to prove he would never give in. He made his choice. And Hou Yi made his. The arrow flashed across the heavens.
Then?
The second oldest disappeared beyond the western mountains.
Only the youngest remained.
Alone in the sky, he quietly took his place and continued the journey across the heavens, just as the brothers had always been meant to do. One sun, bringing just enough light for the world below.
Only one sun remained in the sky.
For the first time in many days, morning arrived the way it was meant to. One golden sun rose above the mountains, filling the world with gentle warmth instead of unbearable heat.
I imagine people noticed the difference immediately.
The first thing they noticed wasn't what they saw.
What was it?
It was what they felt. A cool breeze drifted across the land, carrying the fresh scent of rivers and forests.
That must have been an incredible feeling. Families stepped outside their homes and looked at one another in amazement. For the first time in many days, they could stand beneath the sky without shielding their faces from the heat. The world could finally breathe again. Exactly. Children ran laughing through the villages. Farmers hurried to their fields, discovering that the earth was no longer burning beneath their feet. There was hope again. There was. Streams that had nearly disappeared began flowing once more. Birds returned to the trees, and animals cautiously emerged from the shade.
Did anyone know who had saved them?
Most people never saw Hou Yi standing high above the mountains, but stories spread quickly from village to village about the great archer who had saved the world. Heroes don't always need to be seen. Sometimes the lives they change tell their story for them. High above the earth, the youngest son continued his journey across the heavens alone. Was he lonely? According to the legend, he was. He remembered racing beside his brothers and wished things had happened differently. But he also understood something they hadn't. He did. From that day forward, he faithfully crossed the sky alone, bringing just enough light and warmth for every living thing below. The world was finally in balance again. It was. And across the land, people looked toward the sky once more, not with fear, but with gratitude.
The world had been saved. What happened to Hou Yi next?
A heavenly messenger once again appeared before him, inviting him back to the palace above the clouds.
This time, I imagine it felt very different.
It did. When Hou Yi entered the great hall, the gods rose to welcome him. They knew the world below had been restored.
But I don't think everyone there was celebrating.
No. Standing quietly near the edge of the hall was the sun goddess.
She had lost 9 of her sons.
She had. Her heart was filled with sorrow, but she also knew the truth. Hou Yi had crossed the heavens hoping to make peace. He had given her sons every opportunity to return home.
He hadn't wanted any of this.
No, he had done only what he believed was necessary to save the world. The sun goddess slowly walked toward Hou Yi.
What did she say?
I will always miss my sons, she said, but I know you did not act out of anger.
That must have meant a lot to Hou Yi.
It did. Hou Yi bowed respectfully, honoring both her loss and the difficult choices that had brought them to that moment.
What did the heavenly court decide?
The Queen Mother of the West stepped forward, carrying a small jade box.
What was inside?
Resting within the box was a tiny bottle containing the legendary elixir of immortality.
The reward everyone had been waiting for.
Hou Yi, she said, your courage, wisdom, and compassion have restored balance to the world. Please accept this gift.
Did he drink it?
Hou Yi gently accepted the bottle, but he made no move to open it.
Why not?
A reward has little meaning, he replied, if I cannot share it with the people I love.
He was thinking about Chang'e.
He was. Holding the precious elixir carefully in his hands, Hou Yi began the journey home, unaware that this small bottle would one day become the center of another unforgettable legend.
After everything that had happened, Hou Yi was finally going home. He made his way down from the heavens, carrying his bow across one shoulder and the small jade bottle tucked safely inside his robe. I don't think the reward was what mattered most to him. It wasn't. The person waiting at home mattered far more. Chang'e. Yes. day after day, Chang'e had watched the blazing sky, hoping the man she loved would return safely. She knew he had gone to save the world, but she also knew how dangerous that journey would be. She couldn't have known if he was even alive. According to the legend, she never stopped believing he would come home. And then one evening, she saw a familiar figure walking toward their home. "Hou Yi!" Chang'e hurried to meet him. What was the first thing she said? She smiled with relief and asked, "Are you hurt?"
Not. Did you succeed?
No. To Chang'e, Hou Yi's safe return mattered more than anything else.
I like that.
Together, they sat beneath the evening sky. Above them, one golden sun slowly disappeared beyond the western mountains. The world finally looked peaceful again. Hou Yi told Chang'e everything. The 10 Sun Brothers, the journey to heaven, and the difficult choice he had been forced to make. Did she understand? She reached for his hand and simply said, "You carried a burden no one should ever have to carry alone." Sometimes that's exactly what someone needs to hear. Hou Yi smiled. For the first time since leaving home, the weight on his heart began to lift. And the little jade bottle? Only then did Hou Yi take it from his robe and place it gently between them. The elixir of immortality. They looked at the tiny bottle in silence. Did either of them want to drink it? Not today, Hou Yi said. Some decisions are too important to make in a single moment. So they chose to wait. Together, they carefully put the elixir away, believing it would remain a secret until the day they were ready to decide its future.
So the world finally returned to normal.
It did. Each morning, one faithful sun climbed into the sky, bringing just enough warmth for rivers to flow, forests to grow, and fields to flourish once again.
It's hard to imagine the world with 10 suns after hearing this story.
According to the ancient legend, that's exactly why there is only one. The youngest son never forgot what had happened to his brothers, and from that day forward, he faithfully crossed the heavens alone.
Every sunrise became a promise to keep the world in balance.
Exactly. As the seasons passed, the villages slowly rebuilt. Crops returned to the fields, children played beneath the open sky, and laughter replaced fear.
And Hou Yi?
He never asked to be celebrated as a hero. He was happiest living a quiet life beside Chang'e, grateful that peace had returned to the world.
Sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who don't seek recognition.
According to the legend, Hou Yi believed protecting others was simply the right thing to do.
What about the elixir of immortality?
It remained safely hidden inside their home. Neither Hou Yi nor Chang'e rushed to decide what should be done with such an extraordinary gift.
They believed they had all the time in the world.
But legends have a way of changing when we least expect them.
And that's where our next story begins.
Thank you for joining us on Tales from the Jade Scroll.
We hope you enjoyed the legend of Hou Yi and the 10 Sons.
Next time, we'll follow the story of Chang'e and discover how one choice led to the legend of the moon goddess.
Until then, keep wondering and keep turning the pages of the Jade Scroll.